Hey, what's up, everybody? And this is Melvin here from the Melvin Live Show, episode 76 here. I am truly, truly happy to be here with you here today. I want to talk to you about a few things here today. And one of the first thing is that, Singapore having made to 55 years, I think it's I think many reasons for us to want to celebrate. But there is also many reasons for us to want to relook at what's going on right now. Now, the reason I say that is because moving ahead, I think we are going to be faced with a lot of concerns here, and sometimes I think some of these concerns we do not yet understand fully what it is. And so we are still trying to grapple with things. And as we're trying to grapple with things, one of the key things that we will have to do is that we will have to make what I call decisions. And making decisions is essentially require us to come down to identifying a list of options and also to understand what I would say arguably are the trade-offs. Now, what exactly are trade-offs in a nutshell? A trade-off in a very simple way means that, for instance, you only have 30 minutes at hand and you could choose one of two things. You could choose to just simply order a cup of tea and chill out and wait for your 30 minutes to go by so that you can go on to what you want to do. Or you can use this 30 minutes to learn something new. And arguably, some of us will pick learning something new. Some of us will pick buying ourselves a cup of tea. And the truth of the matter is that it is neither decision means anything, but making either decision requires understanding of the term a trade-off. Because in a pure sense, in a mutually exclusive situation, you can either buy a drink or learn something, right? So it becomes a trade-off, it becomes a dilemma. It's either you do A or B. You cannot do A and B at the same time. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Why can't I order a cup of tea, sit down and learn something? That's absolutely my point. Now, many a times we tend to see things as a trade-off. And this is essentially what I call a false dichotomy, meaning you are forced into a situation whereby you perceive that I can only do this, right? An example that I had was many years back when I first started out in my career. I had a friend who came out to see me, and at that point in time, he was clearly pretty successful in his field. He sells insurance. Now, what happened was that he told me, he said that, well, look, Melvin, there is this two key things that we all wish we have more of. One is we wish that we have more time. The other is we wish we have more money. Now, unfortunately, in our current circumstance, you can either have more time and little money or more money, no time. So what happened is that you could have a lot of time to be with your family, but you just do not have the capacity. You just cannot give your family the experience that you want to. Or you may have a lot of money that you can give your family the experience that you want to. However, you are not able to, be with them as much as you want to. Now, and so he told me that at a point in time, he told me that, look, it's either someone has a lot of money and very little time, or very little money and lots of time. And initially, I bought into the idea of that false dichotomy because rightfully at that point in time, the internet was not something that people would be able to make money from. And so there isn't a possibility for you to want to earn a side income. And so as a result of that, if you want to earn additional income, what you have to do is you have to take out a second job. And what that means, of course, it means that if you're going to take out a second job after your first job itself, then what's going to happen is you are going to have to give up certain things, right? You have to probably give up partying. You probably have to give up meeting your friends or your spouse or your girlfriend, boyfriend, and to that, using that time to do something else, to do something that earns a second income, for example, right? Now, so in those days, the idea of leverage, the idea of let's see if I'm able to open a shop and then not worry about being screwed, right? So that idea was quite difficult because what that means is that you need to sink in a fair bit of capital, as well as you need to set up a shop. Unless you already have infrastructure in place, it's going to take you some time. And so that kind of prevents people from wanting to do that, right? And besides, under the Singapore law, it requires that the person who is employed to not be doing anything on their own on the side itself until it's approved by the employer. Which honestly, if you ask me, I think is ridiculous. That said, from an employer point of view, I think I welcome to know, or I would like to know if my employees are actually doing something on the side, just so that I know, right? So, and in addition to that, that kind of created a lot of concern because at a point in time, there were a lot of people, well, maybe not a lot, but there were sufficient people who were looking for someone. And as a result of that, they were, in addition to that, they were also starting something on the side. And as they build up that second business itself, they start to really get clients from their customers, the clients from their employers, and kind of siphon them to their own. And so we've heard horror stories like this, and of course, it has created a very distrustful situation. Everyone is very concerned. Everyone is very distrusting of their employees, wanting to do something like that. And as a result of that, it's highly frowned upon. And hence, it has written into the Employment Act that if you were going to do something like this, you're gonna get into trouble if you do not tell your employer, and your employer actually have the possibility to take a lawsuit against you if they find out because of non-competition, right? And also of the clause that you are not supposed to be dedicating your time to the work and the scope of work with your employer itself. So there is a huge trade-off at a point in time. And so to a certain extent, what he said was true because it became an either-or situation. It became you either have this or you have that. That is true. And we're talking about in 1997, thereabouts, right? But in today's context, right? In today's context, more than 20 over years more than 20 over years later, that idea of trade-off, it's no longer that apparent. And in addition to that, that idea of trade-off isn't that huge, in a sense that you do not have to give up a lot to build something on the side and risk going to that situation which no one wants to get into, which is legal, right? So right now, it's a lot of the time. There is a lot of possibility for anyone, just about anyone, to use their social media platforms and to be able to use a series of no-code tools to kind of build something on the side. I would frankly recommend that you consider building, let's say, an online course, right? Because this is where you start teaching from your experience, from your expertise, from your knowledge itself. And you can sell this course on Udemy, or you could contact me and I could help you create a flywheel, a marketing system to help you market the course itself. And that could be something that you do on the side. It's like a hobby kind of thing, which is something that I do, right? And slowly to build that out. But the other thing that you really want to think of is that what is the trade-off if you do not do something like this? Now, I think the trade-off in not doing something like this is tremendously scary, because in this current climate itself, I pray that we do not see the huge amount of job losses that some other countries are seeing. But that's it. It is inevitable that this is going to happen. And it's also inevitable that many of us are going to be replaced. And if we're going to be replaced, there are only two things that is going to help us. One is that unless we are independently wealthy and we are financially free, then obviously, we are going to be able to make it. But if we're not, then I think the other thing that we really need to do is the following. We really need to leverage the tools, the technology, the possibility of building something based on your expertise, right? And so I spoke about the 5 P's the other day, speaking with the first P, which is not product. The first thing you want to think of is not your product. The first thing you want to think of is, what are the problems that people face? What are the problems that people face? Then you move on to who are these people. Then you move on to your level of proficiency. So leveraging a proficiency, because whatever you have in terms of knowledge and all, it's still relevant. Now, the question is, how do you keep yourself relevant? I mean, if you're really relevant, then you ought to still be able to find a job if you are still looking for a job. But the truth of the matter is that you can always be relevant and yet be displaced, because A, you're too expensive, B, it's just not feasible to have you employed in this country, for example. And so where does this go? So the thing really is to think about how we are able to move our expertise and to be able to sync it with something else, something that is in high demand. So for example, if you are a communication specialist, are you able to use your idea, the fundamentals, principles of communication, and to use it on a platform like TikTok, whereby you are able to use that platform to communicate in ways that the other people will only just end up making funny and senseless and stupid videos, right? But if you have the expertise, you are able to kind of intertwine that whole platform itself, perhaps partner with someone who understands the platform, but give them the fundamentals, give them the principles about how you could write on that platform. And so here's a plug that a shameless plug that I want to do, because I am going to be teaching a group of people how to use TikTok to further their business goals. And in that session itself, we are going to be sharing with them in terms of case studies and examples and how businesses can use that as a platform to draw more people, right? And so the idea it's not about just how to use the platform, but more importantly, how you are able to use the platform, bring in your expertise, and kind of intertwine that with into a system that people right now hasn't quite figured it out yet. So for example, at the end of the day, why would people need you? Well, you can do what people cannot do, right? But what if they can do, or at least they think that they can do what you think you can do? The next step is that if you're able to give them a proven system, and sometimes the proven system is just your own experimentation. So do not be afraid to experiment and go out there and start implementing certain things, because you never know that some of this thing might in fact lead to something else, right? But make it such that you kind of ring fence your risk. I mean, how much risk does it have to do something for 20 minutes a day and experiment that for perhaps 100 days and see what happens? I think that risk is so low that you shouldn't be not taking it. That trade-off, it's probably not even there. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is I'm gonna have people watching this video and they're gonna laugh at me, they're gonna make fun of me, they're gonna say that, well, I don't know what he's doing, what his objective is, and how does he make his money, right? I mean, people have said that about me before, so it really doesn't bother me. The truth of the matter is that I have demonstrated that by experimenting, I'm able to see how certain things work. And right now, I'm going out teaching people how to podcast, how to use videos, how to use TikTok, and how to use LinkedIn. And that has been my expertise right now. And that's something that I'm building. And I've also gained the possibility of, or at least the privilege of working with international brands to help them with their social media, help them with their LinkedIn, help them with their Facebook, for example. I've done all that, right? And how was I able to do that? I mean, given that I even do not work in that particular industry myself. And the point of the matter is that I experimented, I put in the work, I was not afraid to put myself out there, and I was willing to, in a way, make a fool of myself, but in the whole spirit of experimenting. And so the trade-off for me was so little that it doesn't make sense. It really doesn't make sense if I do not do something about that, right? So the trade-off, it's like, if I don't do it, this is even worse. And so, my friends, I hope that this video kind of gives you that wake-up call. If you still have been hesitant about experimenting, if you still have been hesitant about starting something on your own on the side, looking at how you could leverage videos, leverage no-code tools, leveraging your expertise to build that 1%, 1 million, all things digital business, I think you're not doing yourself a favor, right? And so if you want to find out more, if you want to learn more, please feel free to follow me, hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, like my page, and you'll be getting more of this good stuff in the weeks to come, right? I'm on a roll now. I'm heading towards my 100th live stream on a daily basis, and I feel that I am unstoppable right now. So if you want to join me, if you want to see how I excel or crash and burn, this is the time to do it, all right? And with that, I'll see you on the next one. Bye-bye.